Folks, a couple weeks ago, I traveled to Albany, New York, not only to commentate the incredible match between Nigel Richards and Adam Logan, but also to compete myself in the 28-game main event against the likes of Nigel, Adam, and a slew of other champion and grandmaster players from around the world. If I got incredibly lucky and won the main event, I would stand to gain $20,000 in prizes, but more realistically, I was hoping to get my third and final Grandmaster norm towards my worldwide Grandmaster title. So in this video, I will break down my experience at the Albany tournament. By the end, you will find out whether I have officially become GM Wanderer or whether I remain the same old Gotham Scrabble. I got off to a solid 3-1 start in the main event, including a relatively stress-free win on the live stream in round 4, heading into my round 5 game against top expert Jason Keller. With Jason on turn late in the game, I'm holding strong letters, including the playable bingo of Gassiest through the S of Jason's previous play. If Jason just empties the bag somewhere and doesn't block my bingo, I will easily win this game. Instead, he plays just one tile with M for 23, leaving one more tile in the bag. My bingo still plays, but with the remaining letters, I see that he can respond to Gassiest with higher scoring counter bingos of outburn or outturn if the final tile is a B or T, meaning bingoing now wins only 5 times out of 8. At first, I think about playing stage hooking chins, but this would yield re-button to Jason in response if the final tile in the bag is a U. Ultimately, I end up playing stag instead, which yields no bingos in response from Jason and guarantees me outplays next turn with the flexible ES in reserve. In fact, this is the only 100% winning play here according to the engine, which I was pretty excited to see as I wind up winning this one to move to 4-1. A few games later in round 8, I'm paired up with the legendary former world champion Wellington Jigare in the last round of day 1, and I'm fortunate to be up big early in this game. Although Wellington cuts into my lead with entries for 72, I can play hag for a very strong score in response, keeping the board shut down. Wellington answers with Milo for 18, and I draw a consonant heavy rack. Rather than playing my high score of Yob for 20, I decide to play Bald for 14 to block the newly opened M and draw 2 tiles instead of 1 in search of precious vowels. It turns out that this blocks the crazy bingo of Fluid Ram for 92, which Wellington had spotted and was hoping to play. With the board so tight, he decides to take a chance on the valid 7-letter bingo of Dareful, but forming an invalid L hook to Dicta. I challenge it off, which gives me a great opportunity to dump my newly drawn Q without much concern. Wellington responds with the very clever option of Flags for 13, opening new bingo lines, but also sneakily creating the tricky O-Flags hook, reasoning that my last couple plays may suggest a consonant-heavy rack for me without any O's. He is 100% right about that, and I have a tough decision on my hands here. Having just seen his full rack, I know that his play of flags left A, D, R, U blank on his rack. The chances are better than usual that he doesn't have an E or S, and so for that reason, I play Chiv for 12 points, trying to fight fire with fire. If Wellington bingos, it won't be on the bottom row as there's not enough room there, allowing me to respond with plays to the triple like Spent for 43 at a minimum. As I had hoped, Wellington doesn't have an E or an S for chive or chivs, but he does have both blanks, and he makes a brilliant play here of Usword for 51, burning one of his 2 blanks to block my spot, score extremely well, and put a great bingo tile in the lower right corner of the board. Making matters worse, I've drawn another consonant and I can't really do much to stop him. I'm essentially forced to play yawn for 16 and continue to hope for a vowel. Meanwhile, Wellington benefits from his earlier play of flags with Gemote for 46 hooking O flags, creating too many new bingo lanes for me to block, and all of a sudden it seems like I am in huge trouble after having drawn another duplicated consonant and Welly likely holding the second blank. But luckily for me, the open E gives me the obscure bingo of Strepent for 61, putting me back up by 80, and although Wellington hits me right back with A radios, I then draw the clinching bingo of Silvern from the bag to finally finish off the relentless world champ. After a bye in round 9, I'm paired up with Charles Renke on the live stream, and we have an exciting back and forth game. After playing Cade for 31 points here, I realized that I've carelessly overlooked that playing the same word on top of the O of ovality would have given me 6 extra points, and I expect the computer engine to scold me for this mistake. It turns out that I had the chance to make an insanely creative play here of just at for 10 points, setting up Kadi for 83, hooking Orad. This play isn't without risk, as there are still 2 L's lurking in the unseen pool that Charles could use to hook, but if he doesn't have an L, this play is extremely annoying for him to block, requiring a point sacrifice that could be prohibitively steep in such a close game. In any case, I play the inferior Cade here, and a few turns later, when Charles feels compelled to open the board with Lithe, I'm ready to pounce with Seriates, and after his Z-bomb, I'm in a surprisingly tight endgame, with simple plays like Niels for 34 immediately losing to outplays of Hugels. I actually only have 2 winning plays here, and I'm able to figure out the best one. Just X for 26, saving my S and a vowel to give me better flexibility on my next move. Winning this game bumps me up to 9-1 in the standings and sole command of first place. Unfortunately, from here, things go south incredibly fast as I wind up losing 8 of my next 9 games to drop completely out of contention. I definitely did my part to earn some of those losses, including in this round 13 game against the multinational champion Austin Shin. I quickly see that I can bingo here with valeting for 74, and I'm about to play it, but it only puts me up by 8, which doesn't feel like it's going to be enough. For example, plays like Olio will score too much for me to overcome if I draw a T or a V after valeting. So I set my sights on finding a one-tile play that can win me this game by drawing bingos in multiple spots. I see that playing just my N with Chin and drawing one of the 2 T's will redraw me valeting, but will also draw into egalités on the bottom row, so that's a good starting point. I use all of my remaining time to consider other one-tile fishes and outcomes, but I ultimately return to just Chin for 12 and make that play with little time left on my clock. It turns out that straightforwardly taking the bingo now is actually much better, with any vowel draw giving me a solid 15-point outplay in the upper left corner, and had I just done that here, I would have won the game. Instead, after my E draw, Austin blocks my bingos through the R, and I lose a very winnable game. After 2 more losses before I finally stop the bleeding with a win, I try to start day 3 with a renewed positive mindset against the solid expert Jason Carney visiting from the UK. And things are looking good early with my overlapping bingo of Riotize for 83 and Jason's Griller for just 9 points from a consonant-heavy rack. I've got too many consonants as well, and I find my best option to dump them of Finac for 22, which takes a K hook that could prove useful if I draw it. In fact, I do immediately draw the K, and Milky for 44 looks like a great follow-up play for me next turn. But Jason plays Anthrax for 84, complicating matters. Now I can play Wiley for 47, keeping my K hook for next turn, which the computer engine favors. In response, Jason immediately hits me with the second blank and a 92-point bingo of Outlies to jump into the lead, and I draw ugly tiles. Still, the play of Dyked for 42 would normally be a strong option, but it has particularly good upside for me here, holding the N and V in reserve. I'm hoping to draw an A, and when Jason plays Ho in the lower right, I get one, allowing me to play the extension of Van Dyked for 60, which Jason challenges to give me an extra 5 points. I remember feeling great about weathering the storm here in this game and retaking the lead, and as karmic punishment for my positivity, Jason immediately hits me with overlie for 76 to grab the lead right back. Despite my best efforts, I can't quite claw my way back into the lead again, and I lose another game. And after another loss to the defending champion Matthew Tunnicliffe in round 18, in round 19, top UK expert Brian Poe completes a comeback on me with one of the most gorgeous finds I've ever seen. Down by 10 points heading into this in-game, Brian out-bingos on me with the 9-letter feudalism for 89 with 5 overlaps, handing me another stunning loss. I admit I was pretty thoroughly demoralized at this point, but I tried to stay focused and I was able to string together 4 more wins in my next 5 games, setting up a scenario heading into the final day where if I can win all of my last 4 games, I will just barely earn my 3rd and final Grandmaster norm. So my first game of Operation GM is against Sujana Somasekar, who is already a titled master player despite only having started her career a few years ago. I have the first move and I have a classic long-short opening dilemma between high oi for 14 on tripling my vowels, but I feel like chow for an extra 12 points is enough points to play here. The engine considers this to be a small mistake, but here it makes a huge difference as Sujana quickly doubles through my H with Tea House for 94, and I really just feel like I can't do anything right at this point. Still, I have the blank, and I find my highest scoring play of Toluidin, and I draw just the right tiles to have 2 bingo options of Outweary and Unwatery in separate spots. I had to laugh when Sujana then played Operate for 65, somehow blocking both of those in one go without giving me a new bingo in return. Still, I really can't complain too much as I still have Watery for a very solid 53 points, and a few turns later, Sujana makes the nice find of Sederunt for 68 to jump back into the lead. There is another incredible play available here. Unreverted through Rev on the board would have scored 82. If she had played this, I might have quit Scrabble on the spot because, miraculously, I have Earwiggy for 110 points to the triple, which vaults me way back into the lead, which Unreverted would have blocked. Eventually, I get the clinching bingo down of Derision to secure the first of the 4 games I need to become a Grandmaster. Sadly, Operation GM comes to an end in the very next game against my fellow Scrabble content creator Josh Sokol, who hits me with Cordage to open the game and eventually a 3-turn barrage of Freegan for 75, Fusel for 54, and the appropriate Stopped for 95 to win in a blowout 497 to 317. I do manage to win my final 2 games to achieve a record of 17 and 11, which actually was enough to cash in this incredibly difficult field. And while I know I've been complaining a little bit about the way some of these games have gone, I actually finished ahead of both Nigel Richards and Adam Logan, both of whom are clearly better players than I am. So what cause do I really have to complain? A few weeks ago, I posted a Dave Wiegand video claiming that perhaps he was a bit underhyped compared to some of the other Super GM players in the Albany field. And would you look at that? He wound up winning this year's Albany July 4th tournament, taking home the $20,000 first place prize. The Nigerian contingent also had a remarkable performance, taking home most of the other top spots after Dave. Kudos to all of the top finishers. Overall, I would have been much more content with my own result had I not started so fast and then fallen so precipitously. But overall, I'm actually quite happy with the caliber of my play, as I had a 1.56 mistake index, which is easily the best I've recorded this year, and it puts me right towards the top of non-Nigel players. Both of my missed bingos were situations like valeting, where I saw the bingo but wrongly chose not to play it, and I drew 23 blanks in my 27 games, which is a little bit below the 50% mark that I typically hope for. So with that being said, I have the Word Cup coming up in a few weeks in Williamsburg, Virginia, where I will try to avoid any massive losing streaks, and who knows, maybe there I will collect my 3rd and final GM norm. Kudos to the team at Let's Play Scrabble for another fantastic Albany July 4th event. And all the live stream games are still available to watch over on their channel, so check those out and give them a follow if you haven't already. That'll do it for this recap, and if you've watched all the way through to this point, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.